Well, they've got a package that they're looking at. Basically, that's what this tells us, and I suspect that it'll be cleared, and we'll be back in there to finish our briefing soon.
Judy, I'll send it back to you.
Kate, it's sounding like the members of Congress we've been talking with, Senator McCain earlier, and Jon Karl saying he was talking to Senator Daschle and others, they seem to be taking this very much in stride, although as we watch it, as you point out, Kate, this is only the second time and it happens to be in the span of just a couple of days, that the United States Capitol has had to be evacuated because of a threat that they take seriously. Now, granted, we're in a much more sensitive time right now, given what happened Tuesday, but
I can tell you, Judy, that the Capitol, I talked to the Capitol Police this morning about security here. Yesterday there was a perimeter that had been drawn around the Capitol, about 1 block to the east and the west and 2 blocks to the north and the south of this whole area. Now that has been changed, Judy. There is no longer that perimeter. They had moved it in this morning. When I came in at 6 o'clock this morning, they checked my car very carefully. They used mirrors to look underneath the cage of the car, which is something new. However, there was no perimeter any longer, so they had ramped down a little bit on security a little bit earlier today. That's what I can tell you, but that is more than they usually would do. Judy?
Kate, what are the restrictions? Who can actually come on the grounds of the Capitol and go into the building now? I mean, I know that tourists go in there, reporters go in. Who can get in and out?
I have my pass on me right now, but there is a press pass that I carry with me at all times that shows these guards that I'm legitimate and that I work here and that I can bring my car in. I also have a tag on my car. That's typical. All of the members have press identification. They have buttons that they wear. All the staff have identification. Those are the people that can come into the buildings. Now, normally, Judy, tourists can also come into this area. Normally, they can also go into the building. Today, that has not been exactly the case. I think they've been allowing tourists in escorted. They've not been doing tours of the Capitol. So it's been a little bit more secure than normal. On a normal day, if you're a tourist, you have to go through magnometers, you have to go through detectors to make sure you don't have any weapons. There's quite a bit of security here on a day-to-day basis. Right now, it's a little bit more than it normally would be, but less than it was 2 days ago. Judy?
All right, Kate Snow at the Capitol, where members of Congress evacuated, everyone else in the Capitol evacuated because of a threat, a suspicious package. At the White House, also increased security in the aftermath of Tuesday. Let's go there now, and our senior White House correspondent, John King. John?
Judy, increased security and what most Americans certainly will see as some dramatic steps, just in case, the White House is saying, but dramatic steps nonetheless. We have been told repeatedly in recent days about the increased security around the White House. We are now told that Vice President Dick Cheney was taken from the White House complex earlier today and ushered up to Camp David, the president's retreat in the mountains in Maryland, a very secure area. That, we are told, to get a good distance between the president and the vice president because of what sources describe as yet another threat on the White House grounds. We reported earlier today that they had extended the security perimeter again outside of the White House. Obviously, they have not evacuated the White House. We are still here, as is the President of the United States and his senior staff. But we are told, as a precaution, they decided they did not want the president and the vice president together on the White House grounds, so the vice president was moved up to Camp David. We are also told that there are plans for the president himself to go to Camp David this weekend, where the vice president will be as well. So the president and vice president will be together later. Judy, go ahead.
John, the question is, if there's a threat, why wouldn't they put the president at Camp David and leave the vice president at the White House if the threat is at the White House?
Well, Judy, they don't want to answer all of our questions about this, obviously, because of the security measures involved and the fact that we are all still here, that they have not evacuated the president, not evacuated the senior staff, would obviously lead us to believe that they do not view this as an immediate and perhaps not as an overly credible threat, should I say. But just as you see the evacuation of the Capitol, just as we have seen extraordinary measures around the White House in recent days, they have no choice, they say, but to take these things seriously and to take some steps in response to them. I would also note, and I don't want to go too far here because we know some things we don't want to tell our viewers because some of our viewers might be of ill intent. There are facilities here on the White House grounds, if necessary, in which the president would be safe, at least they believe he would be safe, from a nuclear attack. So there are places here on the grounds of the White House where they could take the president if necessary, and indeed where the vice president, when the president was out of town the other day, did indeed go to a command and control bunker that is believed to be nuclear proof here on the White House grounds. Seems ominous to be talking about these things, but This is the circumstances we find ourselves in the 60 hours since these deadly terrorist attacks. Again, the White House saying this was a precaution, but the Vice President has been moved to Camp David.
Indeed, look at what these terrorists have wrought, not just the World Trade Center, not just the Pentagon and Pennsylvania, but look at what it has meant in terms of shaking up the nation's capital. Now back to Atlanta, Bill and Joey.
Judy, thank you. Many people said we're going to wake up to a new America on Wednesday morning after the attacks on Tuesday, and I think this is a reverberation of that, echoing what Jeff was saying about different threats being called, and all of which has been bogus to this point, and we don't mean to underscore what's happening.
But a certain
or
sense
diminish
of
what's happening in the Capitol.
jitteriness.
Yeah. And if you think back 5 years ago, Joey, here in the city of Atlanta in July of '96 when the Olympic Park bombing took place across the street here, that Saturday, it happened on a Friday night, that Saturday and Sunday there were threats all over the city of Atlanta. Shopping malls and our subway stops here in town and shopping malls downtown all turned out to be just that.
Unfortunately, there are people who would like to take advantage of the worst of situations. On, though, the level of concern, and it's still developing story at this hour, the closure of the New York airport. So this is a ground stop at the New York airports because of concerns about some FBI activity today. Patty Davis is following that part of the story now, and she joins us now from Washington. Again, Patty.
Hello, Joey. Well, the FAA has ordered a ground stop at all three airports. That's New York, LaGuardia, and Newark in the New York area. They're saying that is due to FBI activity. Now, what that means, a ground stop meaning that flights are not allowed to take off at those airports. Also, flights that are scheduled to come into those airports not allowed to take off from their originating points. Now, the FAA says on a call just a moment ago that there apparently have been arrests, and we're trying to confirm that. Earlier today, LaGuardia Terminal, the central terminal building, was evacuated due to a scare. A man, according to the Port Authority of New York, made what was interpreted as a threat about a device in his bag. That turned out to be unfounded, but that person was arrested. Now, this apparently involves different FBI activity, different incidents. We don't know exactly what the scope of those incidents are at this point, but there is a ground stop now in place at the three New York airports. Joey?
CNN's Patty Davis for us in Washington again. So there are two developing stories at this hour that we're watching quite closely. What Patty was talking about, the ground stops at the airports, all three of the big airports there in New York, as well as the situation in the Capitol.
Yeah, watching the Capitol, Judy Woodruff informing us both houses of Congress have been evacuated. These are your congressmen and women standing on the lawn outside the Capitol building. The Senate and the House have been evacuated. We will follow this after a bomb threat was issued there. Some reports that a suspicious package was picked up and a dog had what's called a positive hit on that. In other words, the dog sniffed the possibility that that package could be more than just an empty package there on Capitol Hill. We will watch that. Any developments we see here, certainly we will bring you the very latest as we get it.
Of course, the terror strikes in Washington at the seat of the nation's political and military power, as well, of course, in New York at the seat of the nation's, the world's financial power, and that is really causing some ripple effects through the financial community.
We do know the stock market scheduled to open now Monday morning, 9:30 a.m. East Coast time, and for more on that, here's Lou Dobbs back in Manhattan. Lou?
Bill Joy, thank you. Good evening, everyone. And as we begin tonight, we want to tell you that the three New York airports, less than 8 hours after having been opened, have now been closed at the order of federal authorities. We are told that arrests have been made at JFK Airport, the international airport here in New York. We have no further information about who the arresting authorities were or who has been arrested, but we, of course, here at CNN will be bringing that to you as soon as we learn the details. And, of course, the U.S. Capitol has been evacuated, as we have now been reporting, the Vice President being moved to Camp David as a precaution, and we will keep you fully informed on those developments as well. 30 blocks behind me, the devastation that was the World Trade Center. Rescue workers now into the second day of their efforts, working relentlessly to free whoever is buried there, alive or dead, from the debris. Their grim search for survivors goes on. Just 2 blocks away from there, leaders from all of the various stock exchanges and the brokerage houses met today. They decided to reopen the markets Monday morning, 9:30. The 4-day closure is, by the way, the longest closure of the New York Stock Exchange since the Great Depression. And those stocks, of course, traded on the exchanges by people, sadly, some of those people no longer with us. Reopening those markets as soon as it is safe and it is sensible is essential, if not critical. And a lot of people are working very hard tonight under the most difficult circumstances imaginable to do so. Christine Romans has the story. Christine?
Lou, Wall Street will take another weekday to dig out and to mourn and a full weekend to test its systems before getting back to business, they hope, on Monday morning at 9:30 Eastern Time. The chaos outside the New York Stock Exchange, it's turned really into an eerie quiet. Security here very tight. Police on nearly every street corner, but there are still worries about unstable buildings in this area. Traders here have never seen stocks closed for 4 straight weekdays in their time, and for nearly 60 years, an unwritten rule has prevailed that you don't keep markets closed for more than 3 days. But fears are fading that an extended shutdown in U.S. stocks will create panic selling when they open.
I think the time aspect is going to allow it to be a lot more stable than it would have otherwise been. I think the markets are comfortable that we will have an orderly price adjustment. There's more risk in the market, there's more risk in the economy, there's more risk in the global environment. There has to be a price adjustment down ultimately, but if that's an orderly price adjustment, we will see transactions start to come back and we will see the markets get back on their feet over the next few weeks.
Now the plan is to open stocks on Monday, but there are still more questions than answers. Can New York's tiny, crooked downtown streets handle the thousands of workers needed to open its trading floors? 3,000 traders and support staff are here at the big board on the floor. How will those people get here? Will phone lines and power sources remain secure? And will investors even be ready? For now, many folks here say they're relieved and they'll take it one day at a time, Lou.
Christine, thank you, Christine Romans. And of course, amongst the many challenges, the formidable challenges facing everyone downtown Manhattan, those trying to rescue those who we all hope could be still alive under the rubble and the debris, trying to repair the infrastructure itself that will make access to that area possible. And principal among that infrastructure, some of the most densely concentrated telecom, communications equipment and lines in all the world. And that presents a major obstacle to the reopening of these markets. And Alan Chernoff is here to tell us how they're going to get that done.
Exactly, Lou. And in fact, the building immediately north of the World Trade Center site is a very important telecommunications switching center owned by Verizon. Normally, that building provides 20% of the data circuits for the New York Stock Exchange. Now, the building, of course, is out of commission. Verizon is doing its best right now to rebuild that capacity. Now, a very different type of rebuilding effort involves investor confidence. And today, the SEC Chairman Harvey Pitt did his best to calm investors.
This is not an economic problem. It's a physical catastrophe. People are responding to a physical tragedy. That should not in any way, shape, or form cause anyone to believe that there will be something sinister like a Black Monday resulting from the opening of trading.
We apologize for the interruption, but we're going to go back now. Further developments at the evacuation of the U.S. Capitol. We're going to senior White House correspondent John King. John?
Well, Lou, I want to bring you up to speed on a briefing we've just had with a senior administration official, not on the developments at the U.S. Capitol, the evacuation of the Capitol, but on the investigation here in Washington. Speaking to the senior administration official, no doubt the administration believes that the suspected Saudi terrorist Osama bin Laden is suspect number one in this, but this official saying one of the reasons the administration has not flat out said so just yet as the investigation continues is, quote, that there might have been not one but multiple organizations involved in this. So that one development as the investigation continues and as the president meets with his national security team again this afternoon to consider possible military strikes. Also, this official making clear in an obvious effort to try to build American public support and prepare the American public that even if the president authorizes a military response to these terrorist strikes of the past few days, that the administration is also preparing what this official called a sustained effort involving other governments to crack down not only militarily but financially and diplomatically as well, not only on terrorist groups but on nations that harbor them as well. And as an example of that, the administration putting extraordinary pressure on the government of Pakistan today, asking, we are told by sources, for the Pakistani government to close the border with Afghanistan, to stop supplying fuel to the Taliban government, government in Afghanistan to provide any information it has on the movements and the organization of Osama bin Laden, and to allow U.S. warplanes access to Pakistani airspace if requested in the event the president does go forward with a military response. That is significant, of course, because Mr. bin Laden has his shelter in Afghanistan. A number of developments in the investigation, an urgent tone here at the White House, and as we previously reported, a new security environment again here at the White House as well, as the president continues his discussions inside today because of an earlier threat today on the vicinity of the White House and on the White House grounds itself. We are told as a precaution, Vice President Dick Cheney taken out of the White House grounds, brought to the Camp David retreat in Maryland, so he and the president would be a safe distance apart. Lou.
And John, the president remains in the White House tonight.
He does indeed. The president here as we speak. That a sign, number one, that they don't view this threat as credible right now, although just 100 yards away in Lafayette Park, armed Secret Service continue to patrol, and they have blocked off all vehicle traffic on a much broader perimeter than had been the case yesterday. The president in the White House working. We should also note, though, there are very secure facilities beneath the White House grounds should there be a threat on the White House.
John, thank you very much. John King from the White House, who will, amongst all the other correspondents as well, of course, here at CNN, be keeping us up to date. We want to return to Alan Chernoff. Alan, the obstacles facing the big board, all of the exchanges and these brokerages to bring Wall Street back fully recovered, at least as recovered as possible by Monday.
Huge effort here, and it's not only the stock exchange, all the brokerage firms, of course, the city officials, and as we mentioned, the telecommunications companies, very critical here, as well as Con Edison, a power company, because there was a generator in the basement of number 7 World Trade Center, which also is gone.
And Verizon, the principal telephone company working down there.
Precisely.
Okay. Alan Chernoff, thank you very much. And again, as I said, as we focus on what is happening here in the financial capital of indeed the world, we will also, as any development warrants, be moving you back to wherever the development takes place to give you the full report. We have some good news tonight. Morgan Stanley, the brokerage house, the World Trade Center's largest tenant, occupying parts of both towers. In fact, 3,700 employees. And we're going to tell you about the remarkable story of the survivors of that in just a moment. We're going to go now back to Washington, D.C. Lieutenant Dan Nichols of the Capitol Police.
Into the building to the specific area where the threat was made. The first team went in and conducted a sweep and hit on an area that was a concern. As a precaution, we sent a second team in, and that second team hit also. Based upon 2 dogs hitting on a package, we went ahead and did an immediate evacuation of the Capitol to ensure the public safety and the security of the Congress. Everyone was evacuated out of the building. I'm pleased to say now that we've cleared this. We sent our hazardous devices unit in. They've examined that area thoroughly, and they have not identified anything of a hazardous nature. And we are now getting ready to reoccupy the Capitol building. This event lasted approximately 45 minutes or 50 minutes, and it's now concluded. I was developing some more information. The reason why I was late coming to the briefing is we had just had the information passed on to me that we have cleared that, the bomb team has cleared the package, or cleared the area, and we are now re-entering the Capitol building.
Can you tell us what kind of a package it was? Was it a briefcase or a...
I'm sorry, I'm not going to get into that specific information. As far as, I'm sorry, I'm not going to give you the location either.
Somebody called and said that there was a package in a specific location, and there was...
Lieutenant Dan Nichols explaining the reasons that for the first time that we know ever, the U.S. Capitol has been evacuated. That after obviously a very credible threat, in this case the threat of a suspicious package or briefcase, at least something suggesting the possibility of a bomb, and the Vice President indeed being moved off to Camp David while the President remains at the White House. That evacuation now ended, and staff and of course our representatives and senators to return to the Capitol. I was just saying, there is some good news, some almost remarkably, if not miraculous news, that amongst 3,700 employees at the World Trade Center destroyed in the space of less than 2 hours, that all but 40 of those 3,700 people are accounted for. 40 people missing of them. And one of the people who made it out of the World Trade Center in time, Joe McAlinden, who has appeared on this broadcast a number of times, and an old and good friend. And Joe, we're We're just delighted to see you obviously safe. Tell us what happened.
Well, I was having a breakfast meeting on the 66th floor in our dining room when the first plane hit the number 1 building and burst into flames. And so our security man on the floor urged everyone to get out. Even though there was no immediate danger from that to the number 2 building, we're worried about the fire spreading. So I got down the elevator with a bunch of colleagues and then walked down most of the way from 44.
You took the elevator down?
I took an elevator from 66 to 44. At the time, our building was believed to be a no threat.
Right,
Who knew?
At that point.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, as you reached the ground, you saw at that point the extent of the damage and what was going on?
When I first reached the ground, the second plane still hadn't hit. It hit about a minute after I walked out of that elevator. And
did you actually see it?
I did not see it. I was in the concourse underground, exiting with a bunch of other people. And at that point, it was fairly orderly evacuation going on, and people were viewing it as a freak accident.
Well, Morgan Stanley's security there to evacuate all of those people there, I mean, that's truly a remarkable accomplishment.
It is, and we were very fortunate. As you know, a lot of other firms and organizations had much larger problems than we have to report so far.
Well, the fact that the security people were able to move that quickly, they literally started moving you out of the building.
Within seconds. On the floor that I was on, our guard, Roy, got us all into the elevator and down.
The most remarkable act you saw there?
The one that stood out to me, actually I didn't witness it, Lou, but I just heard about it today. One of our guys carried a woman who was on crutches down from, I think it was the 71st floor, all the way down the stairs.
Remarkable. Well, the stories of escape and surviving and
heroism.
And heroism, outright. Unfortunately, not enough stories of survival as we continue to look for some 4,700 people who are still missing. As you know, the market's set now to reopen Monday. Do you believe, first of all, that they'll be successful in bringing these markets back Monday?
I think it's going to be really tough to get the downtown area functioning. I think that the exchange may be trying some new innovative things to actually have securities trading underway on Monday, but I believe they're committed to doing so. We're geared up to open fully on Monday.
We've heard a lot of people trying to speculate and predict these markets in this environment, which is in the very best of times, and these are certainly not the best of times, sometimes always problematic. Is it your suspicion that these markets will be orderly, or do you think we'll have a problem?
Well, we saw what happened overseas in response to this, and the initial plunge was followed by some bounce back, and I think you'll see that again, I suspect on Monday, if not during that week. There'll be an initial plunge, and then buyers will come in and support this market.
Well, Joe McAlinden, thanks for being with us in every sense of the expression.
Thank you. Good to be here, Lou.
Thank you, Joe. We're going to go now to the New York Stock Exchange, where its chairman, Dick Grasso, he is standing by. Dick, if you can hear me, first of all, good to talk with you tonight.
Lou, it's good to be with you. Thank you.
I can only imagine the tumult that you and all of the people at the New York Stock Exchange have been going through trying to make this decision. What prompted, what were the 2 or 3 major considerations that prompted the decision to open as early as Monday at 9:30?
Well, first and foremost, Lou, let me say that the entirety of my industry, in a joint and unprecedented effort, got together and made certain that when the markets are targeted to resume, that decision and that timing should always be secondary to the human factor, to the wonderful acts that are going on as we speak, Lou, over at that site of the former Twin Towers, that thousands of brave men and women from the fire department and the police department who are putting their lives on the line. The target of 9:30 on Monday, Lou, was a coordinated effort amongst the firms, the markets, with the oversight and support from our government.
Now we, again, this evening, have heard that One Liberty Plaza, the headquarters of the NASDAQ, That now looks to be at some risk. We know that a number of structures, Mayor Giuliani has said that a number of those structures down there may not be stable. They seem to be all right now. We know the American Express building, for one, that looks like it may be a difficult issue. How concerned are you about the environment of the New York Exchange itself?
Lou, we will not allow anything to happen in the markets, and I speak in the broadest terms, that in any way compromises the safety and security of the wonderful men and women who operate this business. And I say that in the broadest terms, Lou. So we are working in partnership with the mayor and the governor and agencies of the federal government to make certain that no factor of marketplace resumption ever comes before the safety and security of the wonderful men and women who work in this business.
Okay. Dick Grasso, I know you've got a lot of work to do. I'll let you get back to it. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Lou.
Thank you, Dick. Well, I want to turn now to our economics correspondent, Kathleen Hays. Kathleen, give us your best judgment as what's happening first in terms of the bond market that reopened today.
Well, it's very interesting, Lou. The bond market did reopen, and apparently it was a reasonably successful day. A big rally at the short end of the government bond market. A big rally took the 2-year note down to 2.99%. I was speaking to Bill Hornberger at AG Edwards. He says he can't remember when a yield on that short-term paper was that low. The long end of the bond market, though, there's a concern now, an expectation that insurance companies are going to have to sell a lot of their bonds to fund their liabilities. That has put a hold on the long end of the bond market and put pressure on the corporate bond market as well in that sector, Lou.
Which at least at this point is not trading, and so that pressure is awaiting us. The question I guess that arises is with the 2-year down, and this security was created in 1972, in this precise maturity, to see these yields down at this level. What does that tell us?
Well, it tells us a couple of things. First of all, it tells us that investors around the world are parking money in a short, liquid security. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what's going to happen when the stock market reopens. This is a place to put your money temporarily. Beyond that,
a quote-unquote safe haven.
That's, well, as long as our U.S. government, which we definitely have our full faith in at this point, holds up, that paper is good. That's what an investor is saying to him or herself. In addition, though, very weak economic data today. University of Michigan has a very important consumer sentiment survey. It fell sharply even before we had this tragedy happen this week. The survey concluded Monday night, a big drop. That added some steam. But I got to tell you, there's some concern below the surface about how well the Treasury market is actually functioning. I'm hearing from my sources, we have a couple of big clearing banks, Chase and Bank of New York. Bank of New York is about a block from the epicenter of the World Trade Center, and there's some concern about the stability of their computer system. So there is some concern about settlement next week. This is something I think we have to watch and monitor and find out what we hear tomorrow from the big dealers.
In terms of the trading in the bond market today, relatively light trading, which we expected, but we didn't see any wild moves here. We saw very little speculation in this market. What's that a direct result of?
People are saying that there's a concern right now not to be seen as predatory, not to be seen as taking advantage of a difficult, perhaps unstable situation.
Okay. Kathleen, thanks. Kathleen Hays. Well, as we mentioned, the airports at New York, those 3 primary airports at New York, Newark Airport, JFK, and LaGuardia closed by federal authorities. We have just been told that 3 arrests have been made at John F. Kennedy Airport. Those arrests made, we are told, by Justice Department officials based, and I should say detained rather than arrested, detained based on apparently their names matched a profile that the Justice Department has been screening for. And again, that appears to be the reason for both the closings of the airport and the reason for all of the federal authorities moving into the airports this evening. In times of crisis like these, if there have been times of crisis like this, Americans generally open their hearts and their wallets to those in real need. And great need has been created here in downtown Manhattan. But corporate America has started stepping up, and stepping up big. Susan Lesovich has that part of the story.
Lou, it's one of the most heartening things about reporting this terrible story is that companies seemingly by the minute willing to do anything, offering products, services, and millions of dollars in aid to assist this massive rescue effort taking place. And some of this, by the way, comes with enormous personal loss. Verizon Communications, for instance, lost several technicians working high up in the World Trade Center. Verizon setting up free payphones in Lower Manhattan. AT&T distributing thousands of free cell phones to Red Cross and other relief organizations. Anheuser-Busch donating thousands of cases of drinking water. McDonald's giving free food to rescue workers not only here in New York, but Washington and Somerset County. And then millions of dollars of aid. General Electric donating $10 million. Cisco Systems donating $6 million. The list goes on, but it also includes small businesses like Bluefly.com, which is donating 9,000 square feet of prime midtown office space to companies suddenly left homeless.
Domino's Pizza offered to send pizzas up for the new tenants, and we've had people who have volunteered engineering services and computer services and furniture rentals. So it's been pretty surprising, and we're obviously grateful for the response that's followed on from this.
The Silicon Alley Reporter is another local business that's also offering free office space, and it says there are other reasons for companies to step up their generosity.
We have to realize that one of the reasons that people did this was to screw up our economy. It wasn't just to psychologically scar us, to kill people. They want to shut down the economy. And these companies, mid-sized companies, small-sized companies, are the bulk of our economy. And they're going to go out of business. People are going to lose their jobs.
And Lou, one of the new tenants in the new office space, a man by the name of Bruno Dellinger, used to work at a marketing consulting firm housed in the World Trade Center. He says it's important to send the perpetrators of Tuesday's attack a message that life goes on and that literally New York's financial district will rise again. And that's very encouraging, obviously.
Encouraging, moving. I have to say, at least for myself, General Electric's $10 million to the families of those firemen and policemen who lost their lives fighting this devastation and this terrible tragedy is, to me, just singular in its focus and its generosity. So I think
and the calls keep coming in, the faxes and the emails. They're not alone.
Terrific. Susan, thanks a lot. Well, as we've just reported to you, three suspects, if you will, have been detained at JFK International Airport here in New York. In order to carry out those actions, federal authorities had to shut down all three New York airports within just the last half hour or so. But around the country, airports today began opening up, and we want to turn to our colleague Casey Wyan in Los Angeles at Los Angeles International Airport to bring us that part of the story. Casey?
Well, Lou, you're seeing something behind me that we haven't seen here at Los Angeles International Airport in 2 days, and that is airline passengers. The FAA gave the go-ahead for the airport to begin operations earlier this morning, and the first flight arrived about 10:30 a.m. local time. It was an Alitalia MD-11, originally departing from Milan, that was diverted on Tuesday to Calgary. It finally arrived at its destination this morning, 2 days late. Other travelers began lining up for a limited number of departing flights on a limited number of airlines. New security procedures, of course, are in place, and LAX recommended that passengers arrive 2.5 hours early, even for domestic flights.
We're pretty confident, too. I mean, lots of safety measures have been put into place, and it's obvious that, things are quite different around here. So they just want me to get home, too.
Now, those new security measures, which of course are extraordinary in nature, involve no more curbside check-ins. And at least at Los Angeles, no passenger cars are even allowed anywhere near the terminal area. They have to park at satellite lots and take shuttle buses into the terminal. No e-ticket check-ins. Everyone must report to ticket counters whether they have baggage to check or not. Only passengers with identification, photo identification, and tickets will be allowed into boarding areas. All carry-on bags will be searched. All airplanes will be searched for security precautions before passengers board those planes. There will be an increased presence of federal air marshals on all flights, and of course, no knives, not even pocket knives. All this, of course, is expected to add up to more costs for the airline industry, which even before these events occurred this week was already struggling. Analysts projected that the airline industry would lose between $1.5 and $3 billion this year, wiping out all of its profit from last year. Those losses, Lou, are expected to mount in the wake of this tragedy.
Casey, thank you very much. Casey Wyand from Los Angeles International Airport. We mentioned the good fortune of the 3,700 employees, nearly all of them at Morgan Stanley at the World Trade Center. The inverse of the story is Cantor Fitzgerald, the largest bond broker in the country. About 1,000 employees, most of those at the top, the uppermost floors of the World Trade Center. Peter Viles is here with that part of the story. Peter?
Lou, if what happened at Morgan Stanley is a miracle or a near miracle, the folks at Cantor Fitzgerald, the hundreds of employees there, are looking tonight for a miracle, hoping for a miracle. This is one of the biggest bond trading firms in the world. Very heavy losses at Cantor Fitzgerald.
It is the saddest vigil you can imagine. Scott Hazelcorn's parents.
It's not even revenge. I mean, I just want to hear my son's voice.
The members of Jun Koo Kang's church.
We all pray every night.
John Perconti's wife, expecting their child in December.
He called me at 10 to 9 and said, our building has just been hit by a plane, turn on the news. And I changed the channel and I saw what happened. And I said, oh God, John, please get out of there safely. And he said, I love you, I have to go.
What links these stories is that all the missing worked at Cantor Fitzgerald, all above the 100th floor of the North Tower, the first one hit. Cantor is not a glamorous firm, but it is crucial, one of the world's largest bond trading firms. 1,000 people worked up there, fewer than 300 are accounted for, but it is not clear any of those now safe were on the top floors Tuesday morning.
I don't think anybody got out at this point, but we pray for miracles.
Scott Hazelcorn's parents suspect that their son did not run for his life.
He didn't care about himself. He only cared about his friends.
If Scott was there and he was getting out, he'd probably help everybody up in front of him. That's the kind of kid he was.
They gather at a city-designated center for relatives of the missing on 26th Street, where trees have become pleas for help. And further uptown at the Pierre Hotel, a gathering site for Cantor Fitzgerald families.
I don't think the company has the information that we need. I think they're sharing everything they know, but we have not heard of
okay.
to validate any stories that we've heard.
The city has set up official clearinghouses for information on the missing, and the families we spoke to have been to those clearinghouses, but they are convinced that every extra effort that they can make on behalf of their loved ones is at this hour worth making. Lou?
Pete, thanks very much. Well, Secretary of Treasury Paul O'Neill cut short his trip to Japan to return to the United States as we begin to watch these markets come back to life. Secretary O'Neill held a press conference this afternoon in which he said that the U.S. markets remain strong and resilient. Tim O'Brien has the story for us tonight from Washington. Tim?
Lou, Secretary O'Neill was back at work today, cutting short an official visit to Asia. He said he kept in touch with the Treasury Department, the Fed, the administration, and financial markets while away. And in a brief statement to reporters, he said the United States has every reason to maintain its confidence in the U.S. economy. And then he added this.
This tragedy will cause some short-term dislocations. Supply disruptions are real, as some transportation stopped or slowed for several days this week. These effects will be transitory as transportation flows return to normal.
O'Neill said the country's economy is not located in any one place, that innovation and productivity are found in every factory and every farm, every laboratory, every financial institution, every small business, and every home office across America. In a calamity of this magnitude, however, there will surely be ripple effects a long way down the road. One may involve the annual meetings of the IMF and World Bank, which are scheduled to be held here in Washington September 29th and 30th. Sources close to the decision-making process tell CNN there is a, quote, high probability that these events will either be postponed or canceled altogether as a result of Tuesday's attacks. Lou?
Tim, thanks. Tim O'Brien from Washington. The Pentagon now says it will launch sustained military strikes against those responsible for Tuesday's attacks against the United States. Today, Deputy Defense Secretary Paul Wolfowitz said that those options will include the full array of America's military power. I'm joined now by former Defense Secretary William Cohen, who is also our Moneyline regular contributor. Bill, good to have you with us.
Lou.
At this point, as the search goes on for those responsible, it is becoming increasingly clear that the administration, that the agencies, the Justice Department, and other agencies are focusing on Osama bin Laden. Is there any surprise in this for you?
Not really. He is prime among the suspects, but I should point out that we ought not to focus on Osama bin Laden solely. We have to go after the terrorist network, and that means going well beyond one individual. And that's why I think Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz, Secretary Powell, and Secretary Rumsfeld and others, the President, have indicated this is going to be a long sort of twilight struggle, if I can use John Kennedy's words, against an unspeakable evil. And it's not going to be over with one strike. There'll be multiple strikes, and it won't only involve military application. We need to apply diplomatic, economic, the full range of pressure that we can upon all those governments and countries and organizations who lend safe haven, provide financial or moral support to these groups who are determined to try to bring us down to their level.
The President has made it clear that this is war, and today, with considerable emotion, frankly holding back tears, he talked about the loss and the fact that he would prosecute those responsible to the fullest extent. Do you think that anything less would suffice here?
Oh, I think nothing less. The President expressed profound sadness and grief, anger, and above all, resolve and determination. I would say that he and his administration will work with the Congress, which, by the way, is about to appropriate some $20 billion, and that's just a first down payment on what will be required. But there is unanimity in this Capitol. There's unanimity in both parties. They're going to lend their full support behind the President in this war against the terrorists.
Bill Cohen, thanks for being with us. Thank you. Well, the Chicago Board of Trade today reopened for business. At noon Eastern Time, traders and staff halted for a minute of silence in tribute to those victims who died in the terrorist attacks in New York City and in Washington, D.C. It was a sobering sight. It is in a bond pit that is normally loud and animated, and as you are about to see, it was absolutely silent. On a personal note tonight, the husband of our colleague, Lisa DeLallo, like so many, is missing. Tom Clark is among those who worked in the World Trade Center. Tom, in this picture, is shown with his son Matthew. He works for Sandler O'Neill on the 104th floor of Building 2, the South Tower of the World Trade Center. Lisa last heard from him at about 9 o'clock Tuesday morning, right after the first explosion. If you have any information about Tom or any other Sandler O'Neill employees, please call 212-714-7826, 212-714-7826. Our thoughts tonight are with Lisa, her family, and all of those who still search for relatives and friends in the debris of what was the World Trade Center. For tonight, that is Moneyline. We thank you for being with us. I'm Lou Dobbs. Now back to Bill Hemmer and Joey Chen.
All too human. Thank you, Lou. A few housekeeping notes before we move on here. The Capitol all clear. Members of the House and Senate allowed back in about 30 minutes ago, in case you missed that, and also 3 men detained at JFK Airport in New York. But still, it appears that stop down does continue for JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark, the three major airports serving the New York area.
We're continuing to follow up on those things. You know, Lou's last comments there about his colleague and her husband, who is still missing at this point, really brings to mind, you know, a lot of people have asked us over the years as journalists, doesn't it ever bother you to see the horrible things that you have to cover?
And it does.
And it does. And I think people forget that we are human too, and sometimes our pain too enters into the story, as it did this afternoon. Our colleague Elizabeth Cohen out of the New York Armory in New York, meeting with so many of the families there, so desperately looking for those who are missing now. We want to bring you a little bit of Elizabeth's encounter with one of those family members right now. Let's listen.
Andrew called Erica right after the first plane crashed and said, "I'm okay, I'll call you back." Hung up the phone, and we haven't heard from him. The only thing we heard were reports that he had evacuated his office, told everyone to leave. The last thing we heard was from his secretary, who said that he was on the 70-something floor on his way down the stairs. But he's a very good soul, and we're just afraid that he might have gone back to try to help more people once they announced the building was secure.
And we did a story with you yesterday. You've been hospital after hospital searching.
Yesterday I was at NYU and Bellevue and down by St. Vincent's, passing out pictures, talking to people, finding out lists, calling hospitals. My sister, my parents, and friends are calling hospitals, personally going to hospitals. I came down this morning, I walked from 50th, I took the subway to 14th, I walked to St. Vincent's, I checked their list, I walked all across World Trade Center and up West Street, giving out flyers to people going down to the World Trade Center to Ground Zero. Today I came up to the Armory and I filed a report with them. I handed in his dental records, his fingerprints, all the information they wanted, hair follicles, gave them pictures, and we're just hoping that someone heard or saw something or can give us some confirmation of where he is, some real valid confirmation that's been verified.
You've had some problems with some internet sites where one site said he was okay. But
there are these NewYork.com survivors, there's NewYorkCity.com. They have lots of websites that have people on that are saying they're okay. I can go on and put anyone's name in that I want, and it's false. These records are not verified. They're giving out a phone number for the Greater New York Hospital Association that's putting up a verified website of people that they know the status of and where they are. And that's the only thing I think that's verified.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
CNN's Elizabeth Cohen joins us now, again, outside the Armory. And Elizabeth, we see so many of those people behind you just desperately holding up pictures of their loved ones. Any chance that somebody might have seen them or known anything about it? It is just heartbreaking to look at.
Exactly. I've spoken to countless people today and yesterday, and all of them, every single one, have hope that their brother, their sister, their wife, their husband, their best friend will be found. No one I've spoken to has given up hope. I want to give you sort of a flavor for what's happening here. Behind me at the Armory, hundreds, if not thousands of people have stood in line to give authorities information, to file reports. The authorities are taking it all down. They're telling people to bring in dental records. They're telling people to bring in blood samples of close relatives so that there can be a DNA match if a body is found. What you hear behind me, that noise, is a generator. It's generating lights for the police because they're going to be doing this into the night, and they need lights to help people figure out where they need to go. I want to show you sort of what's going on here. This woman right here is looking for her sister Bridget. She worked on the 94th floor of Tower 1. She worked for American Express. This woman here is looking for Yvonne Bonomo. She worked on the 94th floor also for American Express. She is 30 years old. This woman here is looking for her son and her daughter. They are both missing. They both work for Windows on the World on the 106th floor of the first tower. Her son is Roshan Singh and her daughter is Kamini. They are 21 and 25 years old, and she is looking for both of them. People are putting signs also all over the city. You can see these flyers. They are pasted on restaurants, on the sides of trucks, on walls, everywhere, advertising saying, please, if you have heard anything about this person, please call this number. You can see, for example, just right over here on this police barricade, people have posted up these signs saying missing, please call. People here, you see them with their children. You see, we've seen a lot of wedding photographs. I guess that's often what people have handy. And people are just looking for some sign, really, for any sign about what's happened. I'm going to talk now to the Bustillo family. The Bustillo family, they've been searching 2 brothers and a sister. Henry and Gilbert Bustillo and their sister Disa are searching for their brother Milton. Henry Bustillo, what was the last anyone heard from your brother?
Well, last we heard it was my sister. She spoke to him on Monday, and he was so happy that he just purchased his new house, and he was just really glad. And then he went into work on Tuesday, and we haven't heard since. I mean, it's such a tragedy. You know, we've been looking for him for 3 days already, and we haven't found anything. We stand online, swapping information so we can swap information with, other people that are missing their loved ones.
And many people from his company are missing, is that right?
Yes. Cantor Fitzgerald it was located between 101 and 104th, and that's where the impact hit the most. And it's just, we're waiting. I mean, we're waiting for some results, or for the company even to come up and step up and look for us and say, give us a little comfort, because we need their support as well. And we haven't seen them yet. Please, if anybody has seen my brother, please give us a call. You can reach us at 201-346-9018, or you can reach his wife at 1718-698-6982. She's desperately looking for him, or to hear about him. He has a daughter, 7-month-old, and he's really.
Please, somebody here from 107 floor.
You can hear that people in the background are yelling the names of their loved ones, yelling out phone numbers. People are doing anything to let everyone know that they are still looking for their loved ones. No one here has given up hope. Joey?
Elizabeth, I want you to take a deep breath, because I know that you are as moved as we all are about the Bustillos and their story, and those of so many other people around you. It is hard for me to believe that there is no other more structured way that these people can get some information. I mean, here we are in the 21st century. Shouldn't there be some way they should be able to find out more than just standing out on the street corner?
Well, there is a more structured way, Joey. I mean, what you see behind me is the Armory, where people have been in line for, hours and hours. There was a line also at NYU Medical Center yesterday. And so there is a more structured way. You go in, you tell the authorities the name, you fill out this report. It had, I think almost 10 pages, the color of their eyes, exactly what they were wearing, descriptions to a T, and so that they can know if they see that person, they can link them up. So people have actually been very complimentary of how the authorities have handled this. One thing that people have not been complimentary of, the families I've spoken to, is the internet sites. There are several internet sites, but it's not, several of them listed people as being okay and found who weren't found and who may not be okay. So the internet sites, I think people are, although the internet should be a tool in this situation, apparently these sites aren't secure and they're not completely factual.
Elizabeth, there are so many other people around you who want to give some of them a chance. Can you talk to some of those other folks around you about the people they are looking for? There's a woman there to your right. She's really been trying very hard to bring her loved one's picture.
Okay, let's talk to her. Hi there. Tell me who you're looking for.
I'm looking for my older nephew. He's 28 years old. He was on the top floor on the first hearing on the North Tower. He worked for Genuity Company. It was only 9 people on the company. We heard people up to the floor 106. If somebody at least heard from one person on the floor 107 to let me know. He was on the phone with his boss a couple of minutes before the first hearing on the tower. His parents are devastated.
He was on the 107th floor of which tower?
On the North Tower, the first one to be hit.
And he was on the phone with his boss, and what did he say?
No, that was just technical conversation. He hung up, and 2 seconds after that, the first airplane hit the tower. We heard people up to the 106th floor, okay? If somebody heard from 107 floor, that's all that we need to know.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Let me talk to the gentleman behind you. Hold on. Sir, could you tell me who you're looking for?
Yes, this is my cousin. Her name is Tanyelle McDay. She works for Marsh, and I believe Tower 1, 97th floor. And if anybody's seen her or anybody heard anything, please contact. We have the number here is 732-499-7118. If anybody's seen her, please contact us. And we really do miss her, and God bless everybody.
Can you tell me when was the last time anyone heard from her?
The last time was, it was approximately 8:30. She spoke to one of our relatives stating that she was okay, she was at work. And that's the last time we heard from her.
She said she was okay after one of the explosions?
No, this was approximately, when she got to work, it was approximately 8:30. She was telling us that she got to, work okay, so, and that's the last time we've seen her.
Now, have you gone and spoken to the authorities in the Armory? Have they been helpful?
Yes, they have. My family and everybody, staffs and police department, fire department, everybody's been very helpful. We filled out the claim and everything, to try to find her, So everybody's been doing a great job,
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, can you move forward a little bit? Can you tell me who you're looking for?
Looking for my cousin Nino Gargano.
And what floor was he on, and in which?
I think 104, 103 in the North Tower, Tower number 1.
When was the last anyone heard from him?
Tuesday morning. His mom and when he went to work, his mom said goodbye, gave him a big kiss, and never saw him again. So we're still looking. The entire family's totally looking for him. Got posters all over the place.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Ma'am?
Hi. I'm the wife of Peter Mutos, and we just want to let all his relatives know, and Peter as well, that we're not going to give up until we find you. We love you.
Where was he in the World Trade Center?
He was on the 100th floor in building number 1.
And did anyone hear from him just before?
The only lead I have is that there's a William Mutos in the World Trade Center, and that so right now what I need is the master list of people that were in the World Trade Center, because Mutos is not a common name, and my thought is that there might be a cross in the first name when they were retyping the list.
Now, what have you done? I'm sure you've spent the past 2 days now trying to find him. Tell me what you have done in your search.
Basically, I have gone to the sites. I've gone to St. Vincent's, where they have a master list, and I've checked upon the list that they have of people there. I went to Bellevue because there they also will print out an hourly list of updating. I went to the Red Cross yesterday on 29th Street and 1st Avenue. I've also been getting information, which is important, is a recent medical history, any other dental records or anything as well, to help them find them, and presently also going just to the individual hospitals and giving him a picture, as well as posting this picture around, so that if perchance he is not doesn't know what happened to him, he will be able to read this himself and be able to call this Marsh number. Marsh, for their employees, they have a crisis center set up in which they're also helping us. In fact, this is what they printed for us.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. There's another family who we want to. Same floor. He was on the
same building.
He was on the same floor. Tell me about the person you're looking for.
I'm looking for Salvatore Ziza, my brother-in-law, who has 2 young children at home and a very large family. And the pain that we feel, we express the same sentimentality to the thousands of people that are out on this street. As much pain as we feel, we wish everyone else here our best. The experience that we've had from all the authorities that we've dealt with, including everything the girl before me mentioned, the same process, the same sources. Everybody is doing their best to help. There are thousands of people on the street from every organization and then some trying to help us all.
Tell me, there seems to be sort of a brotherhood, a sisterhood that's grown up on this street corner.
I haven't seen the American karma come together like this since the Vietnam War. Everybody feels the same way. Everybody has anger, but everybody has compassion. There is no script for what to say, and there's no script for how to feel. I've run into probably 10 people that have Marsh McLennan signs on their pictures And I don't know their names and I don't know where they're from, but they've hugged me and they've cried with me together. Everybody is feeling the same thing. There is no script. However, we're reading off of the same lines.
And do people still have hope?
I think everybody has hope, but I think everybody is prepared to face what they have to face. I think they're facing it the best they can. Like I say, there's no script.
When was the last time you heard from Sal, or anyone heard from Sal?
Sal's wife, who's home right now with his 2 children, spoke to him 10 minutes before the plane hit the building. We've had absolutely no contact from anyone other than the Red Cross.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let me move to some people who are behind you. Thank you, sir. Ma'am, tell me, you are Yvonne's best friend. Tell me about Yvonne.
Best friends over here. We're looking